My name is Ambrosia Starlight, and I'm the youngest of 7 sisters who are all way prettier than me. My father, the king, has declared war on our neighboring city, Centauria. It was the night of the royal ball, but I was reading alone in the garden, as usual. Suddenly, a tall, muscular centaur appeared. With one hand, he grabbed me by my tiny waist and carried me off into the night.
My name is Hoofword,
my captor said in a deep, husky voice.
Your father is actually a super not cool guy. We centaurs are peaceful. He just wants our delicious fields for real estate development.
Wait, was I falling in love with my enemy? We heard soldiers shouting in the distance and ducked into a cave to hide.
We will wait here for the night.
But oh no, the cave only had one bed! Hoofword looked deep into my emerald eyes.
Ambrosia, you are the only one who can stop this war and save both of our worlds.
Then he shoved his pulsing into my flipped me upside down as his dripped out of I could barely fit. It was so...
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I was just, reading this book I saw on BOOKTOK. I thought it'd be a nice distraction from... everything. It's not working, though. Now I'm just filled with existential dread and an unbridled lust for centaurs. BOOKTOK, which started out as a small community of online readers, has since exploded into a forum used by millions, with a hashtag powerful enough to launch a book into the New York Times bestseller list, and now it's coming to a bookstore near you, in more ways than one. TikTok users aren't merely reading to stimulate their minds. Nay, these harlots are passing around scandalous tomes, featuring tattooed mafia bosses with a soft side and fairies that
5 of my dirtiest and sexiest recommendations. You asked for it, I'm pulling out the big guns.
This is a list of books you should never read because they are so foul and nasty and disgusting, and my god, who would read such a thing?
Want some nasty, filthy, disgusting romance books? I got you.
It's just mouths and holes just everywhere, and it's incredible.
In the past year or so, adult romances or spicy books have rapidly gained popularity online. BOOKTOK has gone wrong, gone sexual even, with many reading recommendations centering around the amount of spice a book contains.
These are the top 10 spiciest books that I've read in my entire frickin' life.
Everybody wanted the spicy fantasy recs.
These are some of my favorite standalone books that bring on the spicy spice. They do.
Does It Have Spice seems to have become the rallying cry of a growing subsection of seekers who have begun to infiltrate other areas of the app. You might have stumbled across BOOKTOK girlies self-identifying in comment sections, slick with their own fluids, summoned by the presence of a motorcyclist. In fact, BITOK and BOOKTOK appear to have developed a kind of symbiotic relationship with each other. I heard all the rumors about book girls. I have one question. They true?
Wrong. We're worse.
Maybe it's time you found out.
Yes, and us quiet ones are the ones you really need to be aware of.
Oh my god, Tracy, you are so bad. I can't take you anywhere. Who says I'm not already a part of BOOKTOK? How else would I know how to How else would I know how to tease so well? Barrel!
If you love me, let me ride it!
But motorcyclists aren't the only demographic that BOOKTOK is down bad for.
If BOOKTOK wants more of this, BOOKTOK can have more of this. They just need to know where to look.
You missed an opportunity to add good girl at the end of this.
Y'all, don't make me get the spray bottle.
Where do you think you're going? Oh, we're not done yet. You were talking all that stuff before you got here, so I just think you haven't been touched by the right person.
I thread a hand through her hair and pull her closer, my heart racing. I want to lose myself in her tonight.
Who did a good job tonight?
Forget the spray, y'all need to be spayed. A video format used a lot on BookTok are these slideshows where people post parts of a book superimposed onto barely related stock images of hot people. This one's for a mafia romance called Twisted Minds.
You're 18 and just married the king of the Italian mafia. You were promised to him from birth.
So awesome.
He's been nothing but sweet and attentive on your wedding day, and you wonder if maybe the horrifying rumors about him are wrong until you see him unalive someone with his bare hands.
Whoa! I'm just gonna say it. Red flag. Red flag, low-key. I really like imagining these mafia POVs, but instead it's just Tony Soprano.
I'm sorry, my queen. I should not be working on our wedding day, he says, wrapping an arm around you. You flinch. Let's just go home, shall we? Just you and me. And the ducks in my swimming pool.
Okay, I've only watched like one episode of The Sopranos. All I know is that the guy likes ducks and cheats on his wife a lot. But before we continue, I'd like to take a second to talk about today's sponsor, Lalo. It's Valentine's Day, and whether you're cozying up with a partner or a particularly naughty work of fiction, Lalo has the ultimate collection of pleasure products for you with huge discounts that last until the end of the month. Right now, you can enjoy up to 50% off their most popular toys and use my stackable discount code FUNKY15 for an additional 15% off. All of Lalo's products are made from ultra smooth premium silicone and are fully waterproof. They offer a wide variety of high-quality devices that complement all different body types and anatomy. For long-distance couples, the Lalo app can now bring you closer together to celebrate your relationship no matter how far apart you are. Its newest feature, the Love Bridge, allows you to set up discrete chat rooms and manage each other's Lalo app-connected devices in real time. Treat yourself and/or your partner to something a little more exciting than flowers this Valentine's Day. Click the link in my description to unlock deals up to 50% off, and don't forget to use my stackable discount code FUNKY15 for an additional 15% off your next purchase. While most BookTok reviews rank the spiciness of their recommendations with enough of these innocuous-looking peppers to make a sultry salsa, others have proposed more, creative methods.
This new scale that we like to call the Wedometer, because we know we definitely want to be reading all those books that make us flood our damn basement. BookTok, don't give me no more of this fade to black 1, 2, 3 scale. I want the Bob. I want the break your freaking battery operated boyfriend.
I want to be hot. I want to be sweaty. I want to be uncomfortable. I want to flood my basement. I want the spice. I want it all.
Thank you. That was very descriptive. Really painted a picture into my retinas. But I prefer this little visual aid, the Spiceberg, which is a format that I came up with and no YouTuber has ever used before. At the very tippy top of the Spiceberg where the sun shines, there are no references to places where it doesn't. This is the type of book you could tuck under your arm, skip merrily to Sunday school with, and give Jesus a high five. A little lower, we have books that feature a limited amount of sexual content, but that isn't the main focus of the narrative. Another layer down, we have our adult romances. Her palms are sweaty, knees weak, things are getting hot and heavy type shit. Below that, we have what are called dark romances, which is where things get sticky both physically and ethically. There's on her sweater already, arranged marriage, Italian mob wife spaghetti. Now, personally, I tend to bob near the surface with my floaties on, but today I venture out into the deep end, purely out of academic interest, of course, to ask the question, is BookTok ruining reading?
I'm gonna just come out and say it. We need to stop BookTok. We need to completely eradicate.
I'm out here looking for recommendations of some good shit to read. Turns out the only thing they're reading is 450 pages of sucking and
We gotta talk about BookTok. Women are all collectively gooning on a level that nobody has ever seen.
I told y'all before I was searching for The Sun is Also a Star on Google, and like one of the top questions is it spicy?
Does anybody on this godforsaken app read a single book that isn't just straight up?
If you've been following the online discourse surrounding BookTok, you might already know that it's been in the digital doghouse recently. PR is at an all-time low. Many readers have expressed frustration that romance authors like Colleen Hoover have not only begun to dominate their algorithm, but also the display tables at their local Barnes & Noble.
This was the BookTok station at my local Barnes & Noble. I've never read a single one of these books, but why do I have a terrifying feeling that every single one includes an extremely detailed description of certain activities.
In response to the BOOKTOK girlies establishing a spice trade route to rival the Silk Road of centuries past, there's been a kind of moral panic across the internet. Hundreds of users are digging the heftiest pearls out of their grandmother's boudoir, white-knuckling them, and declaring that perverse women are diluting and polluting their favorite hobby.
Imagine if a man says that he likes movies and that he's kind of a cinephile, and then you find out that all he watches is That's exactly how I feel about these BOOKTOK girls that just read. Y'all have taken this beautiful art form of literature, of prose and these grand stories of human experience, and just dumbed it down to be your little plaything.
Okay. Well, let's read something real quick together, shall we? The girl, displaying her bosom, shewed him her comeliness. Yeah, so that he of her beauty possessed him. Bashful she was not, but ravished the soul of him, loosing her mantle. Oh yeah, baby, loose that mantle. 'Twas thus that Enkidu dallied 6 days, 7 days with the courtesan girl in his mating. That's a passage from the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's oldest surviving epic poem. It doesn't get much grander than that, and one of the first things that happen is a wild bull man and a lady of the night have a get nasty marathon in the middle of a field for a week. Nietzsche was right. Time is a flat circle, baby. Let's bring back the classics.
Do you know how depressing it is to talk to a woman that says that she likes books and then just find out she's just reading A Gooner's Guide to the Galaxy? There are romances that are just romances. Like, Pride and Prejudice is brilliant.
All these females do is eat hot chip and read smut. These maidens be faithless. They don't even read Pride and Prejudice anymore. Well, they do in their high school English class because it's like the first book on the syllabus. Maybe try there. I feel like if you're going to take a really strong stance against spicy books, Mother Teresa better be able to audit your browser history. What's that Steam library looking like, brother? I better not see any titillating jiggle physics dumbing down the beautiful art form of gaming. You get that one skin on Marvel Rivals? You know which one. It just seems a little silly to act as if reading is this exclusively sacred, cerebral pastime that can be sullied by some. The written word is simply a medium, the same way that movies and TV shows and video games are. I don't expect a masterpiece when I crack open Nanny to the Mafia, the same way I don't expect Tammy and Amy to be discussing the political and economic state of the world right now.
Try being my size, Amy. You don't know how it is.
Can I say that I'm just happy that people are reading at all? The National Endowments for the Arts published a report titled Arts Participation Patterns in 2022, which found that less than 50% of the American adults surveyed had read a single book either physically or electronically in the past 12 months, a measurable decline since 2012.
Why are the pages so filled with so many words?
Maybe the only way Stacy can stay motivated to read is by picking up books like I've Been Kidnapped by the Fairy King, but it's okay because he has abs. At least Stacy is off that damn phone, and maybe, after toweling down the puddle underneath her, she starts branching out and reading more.
And I know we live in this really pro-sex society, but y'all have made me Puritan. I don't want to be reading a book and then realize that I'm just reading the author's sick fantasies.
Yes, because famously, men have never done that. Ever. Not even once.
And don't say the economy or Iraq or income inequality.
I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have been reading a book by a male author and have suddenly been reminded that writing is an activity that only requires one hand. The difference is when male authors decide to insert sexual content into their work, there seems to be this implicit demand that we as readers must still engage with their writing as serious art. The writer's barely disguised fetish is at most an uncomfortable foible to politely overlook. as long as the writer is a man. A common response from BOOKTOK is that this recent hate train is misogynistic, the logic being that most of BOOKTOK and in fact readers in general are women. I don't agree that critiquing BOOKTOK is inherently sexist, but I do think there is an obvious gender bias in the way that we're evaluating these spicy books. Romantasy titles such as A Court of Thorns and Roses have been lumped into this conversation as examples of filth invading the fantasy section. So imagine my surprise when I found out that aside from a couple of eye-roll worthy descriptions of jawlines and some Omegaverse-esque sniffing scenes, don't ask, there were only about 4 chapters that contained anything explicit at all. Where was the unleashed hedonism corrupting chaste female minds? Where was the debauchery I was promised? Hello? I'd like my debauchery, please. If women are only reading these to goon, they are being incredibly inefficient about it, okay? That's like 4 goons per 46 chapters, which we can calculate to be a gooning rate of about 8.69, nice, 6%. Why am I doing math?
Isn't it funny how a fantasy book is no longer a real fantasy book if it's written by a woman and has a romance subplot in it? This isn't happening for 100% of the book.
When people are reading a spicy fantasy book, we are reading a book that has probably about 80 to 90% plot, character development, story, emotion, whatever. And like maybe 10 or 15% of spicy material, which is the same that you would get from a show on Netflix.
Books on the upper end of the Spiceberg are being treated as if they are far beyond a clench before you drench and in the Mariana Trench, despite having a comparable amount of explicit material to male authors of the same genre. We can have interesting discussions about the quality of this book, which meh, but why this pressure to dismiss it as frivolity unworthy to be shelved next to the Witcher series or Game of Thrones? Am I to believe that men only ever have pure, plot-motivated reasons for indulging in countless dirty descriptions of damsels? That Mr. Martin was never straight-up jorking it? Why do you think Winds of Winter is taking so long? From what I can tell, the only difference is the perspective and target audience, in the same way that a movie centering around men and male experiences is just a movie, and a movie centering around women and female experiences is a chick flick.
I'm thinking about this because I'm about to finish Pride and Prejudice and I'm looking for a new book to read.
Why do these guys keep bringing up Pride and Prejudice? Okay.
Now I made the mistake of looking up books to read on TikTok. Every single book has spice. I don't want spice. It's weird. I saw somebody reading It Ends With Us on the train at 10 in the morning. It's gotta be an addiction at that point.
I want to focus on the word addiction. Now, I'm pretty sure this guy is just making a joke, but I have seen the term addiction used as a sincere accusation multiple times during this whole BOOKTOK debacle. Many users are equating any interest in spicy literature to a dependence on the hardcore adult content hosted, for example, on a certain black and orange site. I wouldn't know. It's banned in my state. And also, I'm too busy getting laid in real life. Now, I'm a big proponent of moderation when it comes to this kind of thing, no matter what form it's in, especially if you notice it has begun to negatively impact your relationships, the way you perceive other people's bodies, and the way you perceive your own body. But let's not pretend that a moist mom in Minnesota writing about sexy werewolves has anywhere near the scope of harm that a billion-dollar industry preying on countless men, women, and children for decades has. Regardless of our personal convictions, adult content is going to exist. It's the forbidden fruit the masses have the munchies for. That cat is out of the bag and on screens around the world. I'm in the business of harm reduction, and I can't think of a more harmless way to consume this type of content than text on a page. It's a form contained in the theater of the mind where no actors are underpaid, underage, or abused. In a world of restaurants, strip clubs, in a dangerously unregulated adult film industry, in a world where companies are literally putting robot slave girlfriends on the market.
Give us a picture of someone, and we can make that robot customized to you. It can learn about your product, or it can be your girlfriend.
In a world where the emergence of AI threatens every single person with the possibility of being deepfaked into any video against their will.
It's gross. It's gross, and I'm sorry. I really am.
This just seems like a weird place to start. But enough theorizing, it was time for me to venture out into the real world to do some field research about this threat facing our bookstores. My first stop was Barnes & Noble, where I immediately noticed the strong presence of the romantasy category, especially the Empyrean series, which has quickly attracted a devoted fan base.
I'm looking for a book.
Yep.
Why?
I'm sorry.
I was literally...
The Rebecca Yarros?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Why? I was literally on the Target app at 3 a.m. No, I'm gonna cry. It's not here.
No, we have none.
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 You can tell that was the seventh middle-aged white woman that Target employee had to talk down from the ledge that morning. As I had been warned, the book talk table was almost exclusively stacked with saucy novels. However, I couldn't help but notice the table at the very front of the store carried several titles that had recently been all over my For You page. Wednesday's Child by Ian Lee, My Husband by Maud Ventura, and Blackouts by Justin Torres. TikTok's influence had also helped to push these novels all the way to the door, even if they weren't labeled that way. You see, this is the book talk I know, the one that has consistently served me literature across a broad range of genres. While the community has become synonymous with sinful reading in the public eye, I had to actively seek out its spicy side. But if you've made no effort to curate your feed, I'm sure every book talk tagged video you scroll across feels like a visit from the Goon Squad. Social media as a marketing tool is here to stay. These books about hotcakes are selling like hotcakes for a reason. If you don't like that, the most effective way you can change that is to interact with the countless book talk creators talking about books you do like or contributing content of your own. Instead of bitching on the internet, make the internet your bitch. Pop your for Kafka, and may the algorithm be ever in your favor. I do have to admit that Barnes & Noble had more spice than I was expecting, with an entire shelf dedicated to just hockey romances alone. Seriously, I do not understand this obsession with hockey players. Oh look, women are reading Pride and Prejudice. One hockey romance in particular has been receiving a lot of attention lately. Icebreaker has a much higher goon to chapter ratio, sitting at a whopping 22%, but its pastel illustrated cover has been accused of being misleading and even dangerous for children.
This is the cover of Icebreaker. If you showed this to most parents, like if a kid walked up to you and was like, "Hey mom, can I get this?" It kind of looks like a normal little romance, right?
Why does this book look like it's written for children? It's a cartoon! This is a cartoon. Icebreaker. A novel. This looks like it's for kids.
Ugh, gosh, it's almost like there's an entire saying about judging book covers. Hold on, it'll come to me in a second. I don't think any normal person likes the idea of a middle schooler coming into contact with spicy books, but I feel like this line of argument breaks down pretty quickly, because I could mention another genre with deceptively innocent-looking cartoon covers, but y'all aren't gonna like it. Oh, thank God, my 12-year-old didn't pick up Icebreaker and is instead perusing this wholesome text. Do you like big girls? Thick with 2 C's edition. Haven't the last couple of generations fought so hard to break the stigma here in the West that animated media is only for children? Are adult cartoons like Rick and Morty, Family Guy, and South Park also on the chopping block? What does an adult book cover even look like? Does it have to have photorealistic people on the front doing number 17? The spread eagle. I promise, I'm not trying to be purposefully obtuse. I get what these people are saying, but at the same time, do you see how difficult it is to start drawing these hard ethical boundaries? Parents still need to be parents. In 2025, it takes one Google search to protect your kid from reading something they shouldn't. My Barnes & Noble has a very clearly designated YA section, and so did the Target nearby, though it contained even more dangerous material for the spongy adolescent mind than hockey players who puck around. I don't know why I expected anything from Walmart. They had Diary of a Wimpy Kid right next to Stephen King. Percy Jackson was just a few inches away from a super dirty book. Did you know a guy gets drunk and impregnates his own daughters in this one?
Give a warning. Put these in a separate section of Barnes & Noble.
Could stores be more responsible with their organization and creators more transparent with their promotions? Absolutely. But this isn't a book talk exclusive problem, and when we start talking about regulations, logistics get messy. Who determines what books are inappropriate and where they're allowed to be, and what criteria do they use? To be clear, you don't have to like Icebreaker. I didn't. It's an unbearable approximation of what a woman in her 30s thinks young, hot people do in college. The sight of emojis printed upon bound paper legitimately knocked the air out of my lungs. The book wanted to be an enemies to lovers story, but was so eager to jump to the juicy bits, it forgot about the enemy part. There have always been books that are not appropriate for children. This is not a new thing. I lived at the library growing up. I knew the exact geolocation of the shelf of bodice rippers I had to pass on my way to reread the same 3 dinosaur books every Tuesday. Why are we suddenly getting our collective panties in a twist over a genre your great aunt has been flicking through since the 70s?
Reading another one of your dirty girl books?
Did you think those jacked, oiled-up gentlemen with billowing open shirts on the covers were there to politely help heroines file their taxes? We seem to have a very sanitized view of our 4 readers that doesn't seem to match up with reality. Much like the characters in these books, it's time for us to do some busting. Myth-busting, that is. And as everyone knows, it's always more fun to bust with a friend. Myths, that is. You may know her from her history series on TikTok or her book by the same name. She's here, she's queer, and she's not afraid to talk about rears. Please welcome a very special guest, Dr. Esma Louise James.
Thank you. What an intro. I am obsessed. Hi.
Hello.
So lovely to be here.
Can you tell the folks at home a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
I'm a sex historian. I specialized in the history of graphic novels, and more broadly I look at the history of sex, identity, and gender from the ancient world until now.
Let's get down and dirty. Can you tell us how long spicy books have been around?
Spicy books have been around for hundreds of years. So erotic writings date all the way back to the ancient world. We have always had a fascination with putting writing pieces together that are meant to be titillating. But the birth of this novel happens in the 18th century.
So it's like the 1700s, so it would be like a bare ankle would get like 5 pepper emojis on TikTok, right? Is that how that would work?
Do you know what? It's really interesting because I think this is one of the most dominant conceptions, but in reality, some of the pornography that was written in the 18th century is not allowed to be published today because it is so explicit. Yes, there are some pieces, you know, I'm thinking of photographers like the Marquis de Sade, that his works will not go to print today because they are so explicit and controversial.
Like all of the spicy stuff we have today, just everyone stank a little bit more.
A little bit more.
I want to talk a little bit about something that you've said recently. You were on a podcast called The Briefing, and something you said really stuck out to me. You said fantasies are not a reflection of how we act in real life or what we want in real life. I think that this becomes very relevant when we talk about the controversy surrounding BOOKTOK, especially what we now refer to as the dark romance subgenre.
The idea behind it is that if you engage in novels that talks about, you know, kind of problematic romances, the worry is there that if we read those and consume them, then we're going to want to act them out in our real life. But what we know from many studies into how fantasies and imaginative play in real life works is that there's not a correlation between those two. So when we're talking about engaging in, you know, spicy books in particular, what we need to talk about is ethical ways to engage in them, ways that we're knowing that this book is a fantasy and not reality, and how we do that. What can actually happen is that if we pour ourselves into these novels knowing that they might be problematic representations in real life, it's quite almost like a therapeutic experience they've seen.
If, you know, an adult is reading, you know, dark romance, say they're reading something about a romance surrounding a stalker, right? Or some other kind of problematic dynamic, that doesn't necessarily mean that they would be super psyched if a stalker showed up on their doorstep in real life.
No, and I mean, as a logical example of this, right, it will be like the hero, the fairy king purred, and he said, like, I'm gonna have you now. If that happened in real life, I would have
Ick, instantly. Ick,
I slightly changed the hue of the light, so you know I'm getting serious now. It doesn't look as cool as I thought it would. At this point, I've been playing the court-appointed defense attorney for the girls that goon most of the video, but dark romance is where my job gets a little harder.
He's a 10, but you call him Uncle Jake.
He's a 10, but he brands you after hunting you down in a bridal hunt.
Finds her and then takes her on a boat, puts her face in shark-infested waters, and then does the deed with her.
There is no reason that I should be getting this unhinged over a man who is stalking this poor, innocent, unassuming girl.
I'm a retired AO3 veteran, honorably discharged after years of less honorable discharge, so I try to take a crack at the infamous haunting of Adeline.
He put a what in her what?
I don't know what I expected.
Safe to say, not for me. Dark romance often explores scenarios involving dubious consent, large age gaps, and even physical abuse. There is a portion of BookTok that enthusiastically reads and recommends these books based off of the taboos they violate.
I love taboo romances. It's my all-time favorite trope.
There are some more taboo book recommendations.
This subgenre has received especially intense scrutiny over this past year, as certain popular dark romance titles have been noticed by people outside of their usual reader base.
At least once a week, some book from BookTok goes crazy viral and blows up, causing the average person to be exposed to it and read it and start calling out all the crazy stuff happening in it. If a BookToker describes a book as a dark romance, immediate red flag. Maybe we just gotta eradicate this whole thing. Break it up, start from scratch.
I have to point out that men have an extensive history of prominently and often very poorly depicting sexual violence against women, with the audience's perspective often being that of the voyeur or even the perpetrator. It just seems strange to me that when women take ownership of these stories, willingly project onto the victim in these situations for their own gratification, that we suddenly have a video essay-worthy crisis on our hands. It is absolutely understandable to find dark romance upsetting. That is a very normal reaction. But I'm sure it's also upsetting for people whose loved ones have been murdered to see the popularity of slasher films. I'm sure it's also upsetting for veterans with PTSD to watch the same mediocre military simulators pumped out year over year. We seem to have largely come to the consensus that playing COD or watching a horror movie doesn't make you a serial killer. We insist that male directors stripping down 20-something-year-old actresses to simulate acts of brutality on them for TV are just in the business of realistic storytelling. But when it comes to dark romance, we suddenly are unable to trust adult women to distinguish between reality and fiction. This is despite the fact that much of the content on BookTok clearly indicates a level of self-awareness and humor about how poorly dark romance translates to real life.
I love me some taboo romance. In fiction, of course. Real life, no thank you. Stalking in real life? Illegal. Go to jail. It's that one, Your Honor. Stalking in fiction. Is there something wrong with me?
No, so he literally stalks her like everywhere she goes.
Does she call the police?
No, because he counts her freckles and makes her waffles in the morning.
If you're someone who struggles to understand why any woman would be attracted to this type of book, that's okay. I would just highly recommend that you check out ContraPoint's video on Twilight. Not only is she capital M mother and able to keep me entertained for 3 hours straight despite my Kentucky Fried attention span, but the video is a masterful breakdown of the historical context of darker plotlines and romance, and how they often operate as a reaction to purity culture rather than literal wish fulfillment. The ravishment of a hesitant self-insert character by an aggressive male love interest basically provides women with an emotional loophole where they can safely explore their fantasies without guilt, maintaining control because they can always just shut the book. But of course, there are always going to be people who push the envelope a little too far.
Definitely check content warnings before going into them, but you know what? The more trigger warnings, the better. I want all the trigger warnings. I want all the everything.
No one likes the guy who brags about watching a Serbian film. No one likes the true crime girly who sells Dahmer is my daddy shirts on Etsy. In the same way, I think there are a lot of BookTok creators who could approach this category with a lot more sensitivity. I mean, do we really need to get tattoos of the my step-uncle and step-cousin snap, crackled, and popped my back like a glow stick in the woods book? Come on, y'all, let's dial it back some. Every few years, the general public stops in its tracks to examine something that women like, and then have extended debates on whether or not they should be allowed to. This happened with 50 Shades of Grey. Before that, it was Twilight, all the way back to, of all books, Pride and Prejudice.
Erotic literature, when it started, was quite elite, well-educated men who often wrote pretending to be a woman, which I find fascinating in itself. That's, really how the novel starts, and what always happens is that when women get involved in the conversation, we see it as something that's like really dirty and stupid and frivolous. Weirdly enough, Jane Austen is almost like the connector between these two things, because when Jane Austen comes on the scene and writes romances like Pride and Prejudice, critics believed at the time that at best her work was light and frivolous, and at worst it was a danger to the imagination and intellect of women and would drive their erotic fantasies crazy. And therefore we would have like all these women who couldn't control their libido because they were reading about Mr. Darcy.
Which they were kind of right. They were kind of right. That hand flex. I've seen the edits on TikTok. The hand flex. If I can be the friend who's too woke for just 1 second, I don't think it's a coincidence that we're seeing yet another cycle of this intense scrutiny towards what women read during a rise of conservatism in politics and media. That's not to say that any and all scrutiny towards BookTok is motivated by conservatism, don't get me wrong. It's entertaining to on BookTok recommendations. A lot of them are badly written or rely on shallow tropes and probably belong on Wattpad instead of in a bookstore. But some of y'all are going full on Fahrenheit 451 over some freaky fairies, and NGL, it's kind of scaring me a little bit. If you're gonna read something, read The Room. Now is not the time for all that.
Leave me alone!
I think a lot of critics of BookTok have very noble intentions, but right now there are people in power who are all too happy to use excuses like, we need to protect the children, and women are reading dangerous books to restrict access to anything that violates their ideological convictions. This isn't me fear-mongering, this isn't me being alarmist, this has happened before. And it can happen again. When a significant portion of the US and its governing body view queer identities as automatically obscene, censorship becomes a slippery slope. This isn't to discourage anyone from thinking critically about what they read, just be careful that your personal discomfort doesn't leave you vulnerable to a narrative that justifies bans that extend far beyond what those nasty TikTok girlies get into. Like, maybe we could all just keep our voices down. At least for, like, the next 4 years. They might hear us.
Yeah, well, I can hear you.
Oh.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning. This video is supposed to go up in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Is that why we got stress acne?
Hey now, watch it.
You got these Girl Scout cookies yesterday. You couldn't make it last one night.
Oh, God forbid I support the youth.
Yeah, Samoa's more like you wish there was Samoa in here.
Get out!
Go to bed! "17 inches?